I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Can you do a roll call vote, please,
Sure.
Erica?
Vice Chair Tregenza,
Aye.
Committee Member Bluth,
Aye.
Committee Member Farr, Committee Member Ostavar.
I abstain. I was absent.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Committee Member Polly.
Aye.
And Committee Member Schmidt.
Aye.
Okay, the minutes are approved.
Thank you, Erica. So at this time, we'd like to entertain if anybody has any public comments to make on any items that are not on the agenda for today's meeting. And do we have anybody online that's raising their hand?
I currently see no hands raised.
Okay, then we'll close the public comments for non-agendized things, and we're going to move on to item number 3. Consider 179 Sino Street. Architectural Review Permit ARP 22-0184 for preliminary and final architectural review of a second-story accessory dwelling unit of an existing garage and second-story deck. City staff has a presentation.
Yes, thank you, Vice Chair Tregenza. My name is Chris Schmidt. I'm a Senior Associate Planner for the City of Monterey, and I've been working with the applicant and property owner on this project. Today, we're looking at a first and second story ADU at 179 Sino Street. The staff recommendation is to adopt a resolution approving the architectural review permit. Here we see the subject site. It's in the Old Town neighborhood. It is zoned R3, which is our multifamily zoning district. And it's across the street from, I believe that's the Bayview Academy. And it's kind of on this curved corner here. So moving on to the site plan, the plan north is on the left-hand side. So you can see the, if you see my cursor, I'm kind of circling where the existing garage is. The proposal is for an ADU addition above the garage and an extension towards the back of the garage. And you can see that outline here on the site plan. And then here's the first floor plan, proposed, excuse me, on the left and existing on the right. So they're proposing to just demo portions of the existing garage structure to make for this new ADU, and then an ADU addition at the rear, which it's difficult to read the text, but at the top part of the addition, there's a great room and kitchen addition, a balcony, and then at the bottom, as the front door is on the left-hand side here. If you walk in through that front door on the right-hand side, there's a bathroom, and then on the left, you walk towards the kitchen and great room. There's also a stair that goes up, and we'll look at the second floor plan here, up to a reading room on the top of the plan side. And then a hallway walks back to a bedroom and closet area with its own second-story balcony on the north side of the building. Here's an existing photo, a photo of the existing building showing the story poles. This is the west elevation and driveway from Sino Street. And here's the proposed elevation. So I should note the proposal is consistent with the second story ADU standards that require the ADU to match the roof pitch and form of the primary dwelling. The pitch matches, as well as the materials, which are generally stucco. There are black aluminum windows. There's a new this is kind of like a French door, garage door there on the right-hand side, and then a balcony as well. Here's the north elevation. This is the side elevation towards the existing home on site. You can see the on the left-hand side, the balcony for the lower floor as well. It is a cantilevered balcony. And generally the balconies, if I understand correctly, are wooden balconies with an iron top rail. And there are I didn't mention this before. There's also new landscaping proposed as well along this walkway near the front door. Here's the other elevation, side elevation on the south side. This is the side that faces the neighboring property on the south. And I'll note at the second story, the proposal is consistent with the ADU standards for second story windows that when they're within, I believe it is 10 feet, they must either be clerestory over 6 feet. In this case, I think they're only over 5 feet. Otherwise, they have to be opaque. And so they've noted that they are opaque windows. There's a new door on this side that can access the side walkway. And then you can also see that first floor balcony as well. And then here's the rear elevation on the east side. And there's that balcony that I had just mentioned as well. I'll note this is the side that has one of the sides that has bay views. That's why they've got this large window where the reading room and top of stairway is. I did speak with the neighboring property owner who's identified a project view impact due to the location of the second story, really where the reading room is. Their property on the right-hand side, there's a small window at the second story that I don't know what the entire how much of the view would be impeded, but it's clear that some of it would. It's not. I haven't seen the view from the interior. There's an impact there. Here's another angle. And then this is a view from the rear of that building, showing on the left-hand side, you can see the first floor ADU addition, which has kind of limited view impacts. And then I don't think I have a good photo, but there's another, the property owner lives on a separate building on this site, and a part of their view from their kind of side yard area does block a small amount of bay view as well. But you can kind of see that here.
Do we not have any photographs of that?
No, it's kind of this. No, I don't have. I was up there today. I should have taken another photo, but it's kind of this same view. It's about this kind of this much, except if you could imagine standing back, another 20 or 30 feet.
But from ground level or from up in the house?
From ground level. I don't know. I'm not sure that there's any view impact from inside the house. Thank you. And the owner's here too, so I think she could articulate that as well. So there are 4 findings for approval. First is that the proposed siding form, mass, and architectural style are appropriate. In the case of this project, the proposal complies with the setback requirements, and the upper floor addition is sited above the existing garage, consistent with the city code requirements. The addition and deck are smaller in scale relative to the garage. There's more floor area below in the garage than there is above. And it is compatible with the surrounding neighborhood style with that stucco gable roof style. Additionally, as I mentioned before, the roof pitch and form and style match the existing home, consistent with the ADU requirements. The next finding is that views, privacy, and living environment are not unreasonably impaired. I'll note that the neighboring property is actually 191 Sino. In the staff report, I think I named it 193. So I'll suggest that change to the findings in the resolution. And as I've shown with photos, there would be impacted views from that side window. But there would be other views at the other rear elevation that would maintain bay views. In terms of privacy, the project windows are clerestory and opaque, and the neighbors did not have any issue with those windows. So staff made this finding that the project would not unreasonably impair views, privacy, or living environment. The third finding is that the project is consistent with city plans and design guidelines. As I mentioned, the site is residentially zoned and has general plan designation for medium density residential, and the proposal is residential in character. The staff was able to make that finding. And then lastly, the exterior finish materials, colors, and all other exterior features are appropriate. The materials, the roof, and all of the other exterior features are either match the existing dwelling or are compatible with the dwelling and residential neighborhood.
Thanks, Chris. Do any committee members have any questions specifically for Chris?
Just one. Chris, you know the neighboring building, the small window, is that a bathroom? What kind of room it is?
That's correct.
Bathroom?
Any other committee questions? I've got that. I'm assuming we can still squeeze a car in that driveway.
Into the garage.
Well, not in the garage. The garage won't exist anymore, right?
The garage will
Oh,
maintain as a garage. I can go back to the.
I thought that it was going to become part of the ADU.
No, the city standards only allow second story additions above covered parking. So the space itself has to be maintained.
So go,
Sorry,
go back to that.
Sorry, I skipped over the floor plan, I believe.
Yeah, well, it's a one-car garage.
I'm not sure you could
But-
put one car in.
So I'm sorry, it's a little fuzzy here, but you can see the garage would be maintained in its current dimensions. The driveway length here is pretty substandard. I went out there today and there was a small car parked there that seemed to not impede the entire sidewalk. It might have stuck out a little bit. But I should also mention there is an existing, if we look at the front elevation photo, there's an existing carport to the left of the existing garage,
Okay,
and that parking pad space would be maintained as well. The carport would be removed, and then the cantilevered balcony would be located above, but I believe that space would be maintained.
oh, I see. So yeah, go back to that view right there, because it looks to me like those French doors. So that's actually, you're supposed to be able to get a car in those French
Correct,
doors.
correct.
Got it. Okay, because that led me to believe that was the, an entrance to a living space. Gotcha. Thanks, Chris.
Chris, can you go back to the photo? I mean, it looks like it would be very difficult to get a car in there, but we could ask the owner.
I would imagine that's what it
Motorcycle,
was
maybe.
built for, but yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Hi, this is Justin. No, certain jurisdictions have minimum standards for garage sizes. Does the city of Monterey have one?
Yes, the city does. The minimum requirement is 10 by 20. In this case, it's an existing garage. We don't require them to increase it in size.
And I guess the other question I have, can you go back to that front elevation? Are those glass doors they're putting on the front of the garage? I mean, they look like a pair of glass French doors. It's sort of hard. I mean, I get that people have trouble using these garages, but if we're going to be using it as a living space, let's call a spade a spade.
I believe so. I thought that they were, but I might have, there's no notes, right? I'll ask the applicant to answer that.
Okay.
any other committee questions? Okay, would the applicant like to make a presentation? Please state your name.
Chairman Tregenza,
Yeah.
nice to see you.
Good to see you.
Uh, Thank you and the committee for hearing us today. I'm going to move this a little. I think it's a little
Yeah.
tall. There we go. Maybe that's better. Let's just start with the garage. I'm the designer of the project and I'm here to represent the clients. The garage is existing. It's 9 feet clear on the inside by 18 feet. I guarantee I can get my wife's car in there. I will not be able to get my F-150 crew cab in there, but it is a garage and you can get a car in there. I suppose they kind of look like French doors, but they're carriage doors. It's an overhead door that gives you a carriage door look, but it rolls up like, everything we do all over the peninsula. As far as the garage size go, it is small, but I've probably done 50 of these in Carmel alone, as far as these small 1-car garages go. The proposal is to maintain the garage, the parking space in the garage, and maintain the parking space that's adjacent to the garage. Currently has this roof on it, this carport roof. We're going to remove the roof. It's gone. It'll be gone. And so then it'll be an open parking pad. And that way the people that live in the home will have a parking space there. And the people that live in or use the ADU, which will be the property owners, they'll be able to park in the garage. Could they park in the driveway and let the tail of their car extend out into the sidewalk? They do it there, but it's really, the city doesn't like people parking on the sidewalks. So the concept is to have parking spaces for these people to park in. It's a tricky lot. That's why they hired me. Chris worked closely with us on this, developing this plan. We came up with a regional concept and ran that past staff. And then we submitted a design and staff went through and said, well, I think you need to do this, this, and this to make it comply with the ordinance for the 2-story portion and the state code for the ADUs and city ordinance for everything else. So we made those changes and resubmitted it. And that's where we are today. It's not a real big accessory dwelling. It has 1 bedroom and that's upstairs. And then it's got a living room, kitchen area on the ground floor and the bathroom on the ground floor. And the bathroom and the stairs are being placed in a space that's currently called the fish, what's it called? The fish room or something. I think they must have, I don't know where that name came from, but fish room. But it's basically a small, there's a laundry room and then a kind of a small utility room. And that will become the stairwell and the bathroom. And then the garage remains a garage. And then we'll build the great room behind it. And then the bedroom above. Where we're removing this carport roof, we'll put in a small balcony that extends out about 5 feet. Yeah, 5 feet out over the top of where that parking space is. So it's partially covered. And that'll give the master bedroom or the bedroom a little balcony that faces out, but it faces into the courtyard area. So it's not facing out to the neighbors' houses or anything like that. From day one, we knew there was a window on the adjacent duplex up there. And however, we looked at other parts of the building and it does have windows along the back and along the front. And the way we've laid this second story out is it doesn't extend from front to rear on this property. It's just over the garage and then partially towards the rear. So I think the window up there is going to be impacted. I'm sure it is going to be impacted, but I think this proposed design is pretty good and it'll fit in. And this 2-story is placed in a good spot because there's a 2-story building next door, 1-story building here, and it kind of helps stair step down into the 1-story. Anyway, on the balconies. So The guardrail system, these days guardrails have to be 42 inches tall. So what we've designed is a 36-inch solid guardrail that'll be siding. And then 6 inches up on it, we'll have a tube steel guard. So it's just to extend it up a little bit, but really it's going to be a solid guardrail system. So, to give privacy to the people down below and the people up above. So that's the idea on both guardrails. And I think I covered it. You have any questions?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Davis. Any committee questions for the applicant?
Okay.
Will you just hang out there for a second in
Mhm.
case we have some questions that come through? Any committee questions for Mr. Davis? Okay, well then, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now we'd like to open it up to public comments. If you come forward and state your name. And, we have a 3-minute time limit, but, we can be a little flexible with that. Or can't we?
Well, you need to state the time
Okay,
that every person's gonna get.
including the applicant?
No, the applicant is not a
Yes.
public commenter.
All right, let's say, can you do it in 3 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, let's say 3 minutes.
Um,
Go ahead and state your name.
Vice Chair, my name is Providence Crivello. I'm the property owner on the upper side of the property on Sino Street. 191 is one address. The duplex has two addresses, 191, 195 Sino. And the side structure is my house is 199 Sino Street. It's all one parcel. My main concern is, of course, the upper level. Most of my view, maybe just with a slice, will be left on the upper side. And I would hope that the committee would consider, I'm all for the ADU. We need more housing, and to provide that, there's a space for a bedroom upstairs. And there's also in the plan a sitting room, a reading room, as they call it. I would ask that the committee would consider to reduce that, but maybe just have a bedroom and allow that for the living space, and cut back on the reading room to allow the impediment of the view, which is a big drastic topic for why I'm here today. I've made that investment in that property, and now I'm losing a considerable amount of view. That's my main purpose for being here today. I do want to bring up parking. I understand there is a driveway that is in the supposed in front of the garage. And we have a very busy neighborhood. A lot of walkers, a lot of dogs, school activity. We have morning drop off, 3 o'clock pickup. You have parents with toddlers. You have people walking constantly back and forth. There's a car parked there. It's going to stick out if it's not a compact car. It's going to be in the sidewalk. And you have a lot of people who are at risk of all ages, minors, parents, grandparents, and pets. Okay.
Any other public comments on this project? Okay.
You can go ahead and remind the public how to
Yeah,
participate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Once again, members of the public are encouraged to join our meetings via Zoom Gov, a secure service that connects you live with no lag time. To join the meeting from a computer or phone, use the link or phone numbers on the agenda posted at isearchmonterey.org. To join by telephone, dial 833-568-8864, then enter the webinar ID. Today's webinar ID is 161-914-9563. To provide public comment via Zoom, please use the raise your hand function at the bottom of your screen. To provide public comments by phone, dial *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute when called upon. Public commenters will be announced using their last 3 phone number digits or the name they've typed into Zoom. I see 4 attendees online, but no hands are raised.
Thank you, Erica. So I'd like to open this item up for committee questions, comments.
Chris, could you show the photographs that might depict the next door neighbor's view I know you showed it earlier, but could you show it again, please?
I think it was the flagging photographs, Christopher.
Is there a side view one?
I have these photos here.
Was there a photograph that was taken from like the neighbor's side looking towards?
There they are.
There you go. Thank you.
Yeah, so this is from the backside of the duplex building. This is from the backside balcony.
Balcony, okay. So the only window that's impacted is that little bathroom window on the side.
Right, so there would be, the ADU, obviously in this photo, you can see would be visible.
Right.
But the bathroom window would have, if you can imagine the bay views from this angle, I probably have a little bit more of a view from that bathroom.
Yeah, I wish I had a photo from the bathroom, just to see what the impact would be. Do you have it on you or? Is it on your phone? Is there a way that we can share that with the rest of the committee?
If Ms. Crivello can email it to me, I can pull it up.
Can you email it to Mr. Schmidt and then we can peel it? Is that okay with everybody? If we submit this, great, thanks. Because I'm really interested in seeing that. So you can see the orange netting and everything. Okay. Let's give her a minute to find that. Yeah.
Yes. Sorry, go ahead, Patrick.
Well, no, the only comment I was going to have just to talk about the parking is that parking in my mind isn't changing at all. That there's still, the driveway is the same shape and length as it always has been, and the garage is the same shape and length that it always has been. So this project in no way affects or impacts how cars are going to park on the property, as far as I can tell. So I don't know if that's something to be concerned with, but yeah, I'm just, from what I see from the balcony, it doesn't seem like the view is impacted at all. You can obviously see the addition, but it's not cutting into any of the view of the bay. And from the ground level in the backyard, it's not really cutting into the bay there either. And I'm just curious as to see, I live in a house up on Roosevelt, and the best view in the house is from the master bedroom bathroom. And so I sympathize with, it's like, well, that's the best view in the house. Well, you're not in there that much, but it sure is nice when you're there. So anyway, any luck? Okay.
Yeah, I guess while that's all going on, I would, yeah, I agree with Patrick, the parking impacts. While I appreciate the comment about the dangers of cars sticking out in the sidewalks, that parking situation appears to have existed as long as the house. So the garage wasn't reduced in size, it was always small. So there's a parking space adjacent to the garage, and maybe someone could get in the garage. I appreciate these pictures of the back of the house, because I guess my biggest concern is whether that two-story piece overlapped the second story of the adjacent house, and it doesn't appear to do so. And while I appreciate that, no one wants to lose a view from any window, I think we have to balance the competing objectives here. And I don't feel that the neighbor appears to have lost the entirety of their view. In fact, their more important views appear to be out of the back of the house. And seems we'd have to take off a significant chunk of this ADU in order to preserve the view from the bathroom. And I don't know if that's a fair ask of the applicant.
Yeah, I think I agree with Justin and Patrick that the parking is going to be a parking enforcement issue, and I think that's separate from what we're doing here with the architectural
There you
review. The bathroom view, which we're now looking at, on the other hand, certainly they'll lose some view of the bay.
Yeah, well, it states in the parameters of this is unreasonable loss of view. Is the orange netting going right through the middle there? It's really hard to see because it's low contrast. Or is there, I don't see any orange netting. I don't know. Oh, that doesn't help us then. I see that you do have a little peek of the bay there.
We're gonna have to open up public comment again.
Yeah,
Since she just commented more,
Right,
and we
right.
might have other people
Okay,
online.
yeah. So give me a minute. So yeah, we'd like to open up this item for public comment once again, if there's anybody in the room or online. And I don't think we need to make another announcement necessarily. Is there anybody raising their
Yeah, but
hand?
there is an attendee online with their hands raised. I can go ahead and allow them
Okay.
to talk.
Yep.
John,
Just before we do that, it sounded like Patrick was looking at a picture. Is there a picture?
There's a picture from the
I-
bathroom, Justin, but the netting wasn't put up when that was taken. So that doesn't really give us an idea of the roof line.
Now I see it.
Sorry, thank you,
Thank you.
committee member Polly.
And thanks, Chris, for getting this up so fast.
it looks like John Aliotti is unmuted and can go ahead and speak.
Yes, hi there. My name is John Aliotti, and I am the property owner at 680 Scott Street. So we're to the southeast of the proposed dwelling. In one of the pictures, you're able to see a corner of our garage. My questions are one of privacy impact to ourselves as well as the I guess the other neighbors that would be down the street a bit on Sino. But from my perspective, my two questions, I believe designer Davis described the north-facing balcony on the second story as being 5 feet in width or five feet long. And I'm wondering what the dimensions are of that south-facing balcony that would be more aligned with our property.
Thank you, Mr. Aliotti, did you say? Thank you. All right, so let me cancel that. Can we go, Chris, can we go back to the view where I think he was talking about seeing from 191 Sino from the balcony, looking at the story poles? I don't know. John, are you still on the line? Maybe not. So, all right,
can ask
you muted him?
Yep.
Okay. So I'm thinking that we can maybe see his house from here.
I'm here.
Good.
Yeah, so that corner in the right-hand side on the picture on the left
Uh-huh.
is our garage right there.
On
We
okay.
have a deck that is out of view of that picture, which is right on the other side of that garage.
Okay.
But one of the design schematics that you just went through showed the balcony that I was asking about.
Yeah, I can answer that question. The balcony I showed on the floor plan, it's this balcony here. I believe it is 3 feet in depth, and it's, I believe, around the width of this portion of the structure, I think is 14 feet. So it's around, 13 feet. And then it's 3 feet from the fence itself, opposite to where this balcony is.
Now I thought there was a 4 foot easement off of the property line. Is that incorrect?
Balconies are allowed to project. So this does comply with the requirement. There's a 4-foot setback. The building itself is 6 feet away. The balcony it goes into that setback by 1 foot, and they're allowed to go. I believe I think they can go up to 4 feet, but no more than half of the requirement. So in that case, they could project up to 2 feet. But I did do that plan check, and it does comply.
Okay, and those stairs that are to the left of that balcony, where are those stairs going?
Those are just at the ground level, and they just go along the property lines essentially. Basically brick stairs that would go towards the walkway that's adjacent to the existing patio there.
Okay, so I think you answered my question. 3 by, did you say 15 was the size of that deck?
I believe it's closer to 13.
Okay. All right, and then on your netting itself, the netting seems to go much closer than the 4 feet or the 2 feet if we're talking about making accommodations for a deck. But the netting, the poles that are hanging, that the netting is hanging onto, seem to go within, 1.5 feet or so of that back property line. So I'm questioning how accurate that is, I guess.
Yeah, I did visit the field with Mr. Bello today, and we measured it at 3 feet, and that's to the actual netting is located 3 feet away from the property line, and that's to show where the actual eave is. The wall itself is set back 1 more foot away from the neighboring property lines. Eaves would be allowed to project 2 feet. In this case, it projects 1 foot.
Chris, can you go back to that flagging picture? Because I'm also curious about that.
Can we officially close public
Yeah.
comment?
So thank you, Mr. Aliotti. We're going to have to close public comment for the time being. But thank you for your questions, and hopefully they were answered. So the boundary of the story pole netting is the eave, not the wall. Is that what you're saying, Chris?
Correct.
Okay.
Chris, can you go to the picture of the netting from the back of the neighbor's house? Because the survey shows a fence that's like 4 feet off the property line, which is a little confusing. There's like 2 layers of fencing if you look at the survey.
That's right. So there's another raised patio, but directly behind the existing garage that has its own fence, and then there's another fence at or near the property line.
And that's like 3 or 4 feet beyond. The camera angle is a little oblique, but if you look at the survey in the packet, you can see that the fence is probably about 3 or 4 feet
Correct.
back from the property line.
I think I measured the fence at 5 feet. The story poles were another foot away.
So that would be consistent with the plans.
And I guess this is obvious, but this is the lower roof line. The upper one is out of view to the left.
Correct.
Do we know in plan, if we were to go to that upper level, that reading room seems pretty far set back? Do we know where that adjacent window lands in relationship to that?
It's hard to tell from the
Yeah.
angle. I would say that it's at the center of that side elevation of that building, and the proposed addition is probably close to 1 or 2 feet setback from the rear elevation of the duplex. So there's the addition would certainly go past it.
Yeah, I think it's safe to assume that the view from the bathroom is gone. So I think just we as a committee need to decide whether that's a fair thing. I personally, I think there's enough remaining view to justify the loss of that particular view.
I'll just also add, and I think the neighbor and I had discussed this. I think that at an angle, maybe if I pull up this view here, if you kind of looked from the left side of the window and you really looked at an angle, you might be able to see some view at a really, really
Oblique
kind
angle.
of steep angle. But yeah, this direct view I think would be blocked that we see here.
Okay. So. Okay. Any other comments? I'm not sure, Fernetta, can we invite Ms. Crivello up again, or would we had already closed?
No, they're only allowed one public comment per
okay.
person.
Sorry, I'm new to I'm just filling in his chair, so I'm not sure of the procedures. So, all right. So any other comments from the committee members? I guess the next step is to hear a motion to approve. I really wish, I'm going to open the committee comments up again and just say, I really wish we had a picture out of that bathroom window that shows the poles. But since we don't, and the onus is to not completely not block any views, but any unreasonable views. And it seems like 191 still has some access to views through the deck in the back part of the property. So anyway,
I'll just clarify, it's 193. I
193.
wrote it wrong. I apologize.
Okay, right.
Well, we could have it brought back to us
191.
and see the picture.
I
So
don't think the view does anyone feel that the view would not be blocked? I mean, the view is blocked. It's pretty clear from the side shot of the flagging. I think we just need to decide whether or not that's a fair thing.
Right. All right. So do I hear a motion?
I'll go ahead and make a motion. I make a motion to approve 179 Serrano Street Architectural Review Permit ARP 220184.
I hear a second.
I'll second.
Okay, so item number 3, the motion has been made by committee member Polly and seconded by committee member Bluth. Erica, will you do a roll call vote?
Sure. Vice Chair Tregenza,
Aye.
Committee Member Bluth,
Aye.
Committee Member Ostavar,
Aye.
Committee Member Polly,
Aye.
and Committee Member Schmidt.
Aye.
All right.
Okay, that motion does carry with a vote of 5. The decision is appealable to the Planning Commission within 10 days, and we have applications in our office or online.
Thank you for coming. Move on to item 4, consider 2600 Garden Road study of site plan alternatives for information gathering purposes.
Hello, Chair and Committee. My name is Fernanda Roveri, Principal Planner for the City of Monterey. And I will present to you the study of site plan alternatives for 2600 Garden Road. The recommendation today is that the ARC study the alternatives that are presented to you, consider the policies and development standards that apply, and hold a discussion. This project, 2600 Garden Road, there was a project that you all approved on January 19th of 2022, but you only approved preliminary architectural review of it. And it was for 5 new 3-story multifamily residential buildings and accessory structures, port cochere within the front yard setback, and 2 density bonus law incentives to increase the building height to 38 feet 8 inches and the building spacing reduction to 20 feet. Final architectural review was not approved, and it was required to come back to you for final architectural review. The applicant has presented a different project, or it's not a project yet, it's I guess, alternatives in front of you. A, B, and C, and they all consist of 2-story, 3-bed, 1.5 bath townhouses. The alternatives differ in the number of townhouses, the placement, the open space, and the parking. Alternative A had 44 townhouses, B has 40, and C has 36. And the architectural style that was shown on the plans is in front of you here. It's not a defined architectural style. That would have to come back at a later date as a project with full details. Alternative A is, hold on. I'm trying to make it visible, but okay. Alternative A is, here are the townhouses. They're all on 4 rows. So the front row facing, the back of the front row, the back of the townhouses would face Garden Road. And then there's there would be a new drive aisle with driveways. And then, so the townhouses here would face each other. And then another drive aisle toward the south of the property, where 2 more rows would face each other. And then this wasn't clear to me, and I should have checked with the architect, but I assume that these are private backyards at the back of each of the townhouses. And then the parking, it's a little difficult to see, but in the background is the existing site plan. And the parking would change. And so these spaces are new on both sides. And then toward the back here is the property at 2560 Garden Road, which you reviewed at the previous meeting. So this number of townhouses is 44. Okay, alternative B is 40 townhouses, so you would be losing 4 because this middle corridor was created it's a pedestrian corridor with barbecue areas and a path. But it would substantially be the same townhouse configuration. The front townhouses the backyard would face Garden Road, and then the other, the townhouses would face the middle drive aisles. The parking is almost the same, but it's a little different for each alternative. Oh, and I forgot to mention, in the back here is a area for a play structure and another barbecue area. Alternative C is 36 townhouses. So you would be losing, so the alternative A had 44, this is 36, you would be losing 8 houses. But you would gain a larger open space in the middle of the site, with a play area and barbecue and seating. And you would basically just be losing 1 here, 1 back, and then 6 in the middle. So, and then the drive aisles would not connect, so it would be like a cul-de-sac at the end here and here. So 4 cul-de-sacs. And parking again on the perimeter of the site. Staff reviewed the alternatives against the consistency checklist. So the zoning ordinance, all the different standards that apply. And the alternatives look to be consistent with most of them, but we will need verification. I'll show you later on what kind of plans and details we would be looking for. The 2 clear inconsistencies that I found were that the minimum front yard setback is 50 feet, but all the alternatives showed 45 feet. So this measurement here is 45. Yeah, it's 45 to this townhome. So the standard is 50. And then the location of the parking cannot encroach into the front setback, but all the alternatives showed 1 parking space on the west and 2 on the east would encroach. So this one on the west would encroach, and then these 2 on the east would encroach into that 50-foot setback. These are the things that we would be looking for in a new architectural review application. You know, we would want an explanation of the reason for the siting of the townhouses, that they would that the back of the townhouses would face Garden Road instead of the front. It's atypical for housing construction in Monterey. However, there are no development standards that would be violated. We would want to understand the grading, the cut and fill, which are currently not shown on the site plans, and would like to understand slopes and retaining walls to see how tall they would have to be. Pervious versus impervious surfaces would need to be shown in order to comply with stormwater control requirements. The open space areas would need to be measured and further defined with details of the play equipment and materials and colors shown. A parking count would be required, and parking dimensions would need to be shown. We would need a table summarizing the size, species, and health status of the trees to be removed in order to understand impacts to pine, cypress, and oak communities. The tree assessment that I attached, which was part of the resolution approving the previous project back in 2022. That tree assessment was from 2020, so it's out of date. And we would need a new tree assessment, updating the trees that may have failed during those recent winter storms. The applicant would need to show compliance with crime prevention through environmental design guidelines. The architectural style and finishes would need to be further defined. A landscaping plan will be needed to show replacement tree and plant size and species, show fencing materials, lighting specs, barbecue area, materials and configuration, seating, play equipment, and details. Also, we would need to understand trash collection and or at least some coordination with Monterey City Disposal that, you know, that they will be able to collect trash for all townhouses. With that, I would like the ARC to discuss the site plan alternatives and consider the standards that apply that are in the agenda report and hold a discussion. I'm here for questions, and the applicants and architects are also here.
Thank you, Fernanda. I'd like to open it up for any committee questions for Fernanda.
So I'm trying to remember 26 Garden Road. I didn't have a chance to go out there. Is that the one that had the 4 separate structures that were going to be converted, or?
No, this is a ground up. It's one that had the porte cochere. Remember the big?
It's further down
awning?
from Stanford Medical Health and where the,
Yeah, it's the
Um,
former Trident building. Remember the Trident building? They're like octagons.
I remember that's the
Yeah.
one. Okay, but there were number of separate structures.
Bob, the drawings for the originally approved project are in the, I don't know if you have access to the packet on your computers there, but
I
if
didn't,
you just scroll down there, they're actually in the previously approved project, or it's in the packet.
I have a question, Fernanda. Is the porte cochere still part of this?
No,
Okay, yes, that's gone. Okay, good. So, I mean, I didn't mean good, but
Hmm.
um, uh, and so, any other questions for Fernanda?
yeah, one more.
Yeah, Fernanda, I have one more. Oh, go ahead, Bob.
Oh, I'm sorry, Justin. For when they reduce the number of units, do all the condominium or the townhomes stay the same? So is there any changes where there'll be more water credits? I mean, are they gonna have larger units and in the mix?
so alternative A had 44 townhomes, you would need water for 44
Mhm.
separate units. For 36, obviously you would need less water. It's all done on a fixture count, and the units are the same. It's the same template. You would just have to count the units for one townhouse and multiply that by how many townhouses you have. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, it leads me to a question for the applicant, which
Oh.
is water credits, but
And on that note, would the applicant like to make a presentation?
I still.
Can I ask a quick question? I had a quick
Yeah,
question for
quick
Fernanda.
question. Go ahead.
There's a bunch of red lines on these, and I think I understand what most of them are. It looks like they're the outlines of the old driveway. But then we get into the back of the site and there's squares and angles, and what are those red lines denoting on the site plans?
Let's see.
Are they easements?
Okay, the applicant's saying that they're easements, yes.
So they're proposing development on top of. Okay, we'll let them address that.
And then I kind of typically have questions about context. And so Garden Road is easy to understand, but plan east or to the right of the page. What is that context? I mean, I'm seeing on Google Earth, is that a different development that they're proposing? Or what is connecting to the site there?
Oh, you mean toward the back?
Correct. So the opposite of Garden Road.
Yeah, they have 2 easements on that. They have to allow access to the property in the back, which is 2560 Garden Road. And they do that by having 2 drive aisles that go to the back.
And that's just
Right.
remaining as is. for now. Is that?
Payam, you weren't at the last hearing. There was actually a project proposed for back there that's remodeling that. It's basically the same structure, but it's being remodeled for housing.
Okay, great.
So the easements, I mean, they have to meet the easement requirements. I have to review the widths of the driveways to see if it would comply, but that wasn't a detail that I could see here. So it would have to be reviewed with a later submittal.
Okay, one more question. I see all of these have garages. What are all these additional parking spaces for? Is that a parking requirement?
The parking requirement for this zone is 2.5 parking spaces for 3-bedroom units. So each unit is required 2.5 spaces. And so you have to multiply that. So with 44 units, times 2.5 is 110. So they can't just meet the parking by having a garage, they have to have other on-street parking. That's why they provided those parking spaces on
Yeah.
either side of the lot.
And Monterey still requires that.
Yes, it's required in the zoning ordinance.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, I got one more question. What was the unit count on the previously approved project?
57.
57 units. Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Fernando. Would the applicant like to make a presentation?
Ladies and gentlemen, Brad Slama, thank you for your time. Let me get a little bit of color on this project. We're in our 4th iteration as we've kind of played the water yo-yo game. The project that was previously preliminarily approved at 57 units, we can no longer do. The water district was allowing recycled water for a time. And so that took our unit count max from 44 to 58 by doing a nice recycled system where we would take certain gray water and use it after treating it. That system is no longer allowed to be used. So we've kind of mid-project had to pivot to something at a 44 unit count max for this site. As soon as we step down to 44, now it becomes better for the consumer and for me as a developer to have a townhome style development, much more desirable product than a 2- and 3-story garden rise apartment. And so that's kind of why we've gone in this direction. A few notes, the architectural picture that you're seeing with the pink walls and everything, this is just an image to show kind of the way it would look from a front, not the actual colors, pictures, anything. There's been zero real design that's gone into this at all. We're just kind of massing study, trying to get a feel for where we should go with this with you guys, so that when we invest $100,000 to $200,000 in a bunch of time, that we're kind of all going in the same direction, and we get this right the last time, as we've gone the wrong direction a couple times. Questions about the red lines? The red lines are easements. They are movable. We are currently in contract to purchase the property down below us and merge the 2 projects together to make it more seamless and copacetic. As far as the 3 different projects, 44, 40, and 36, the main consideration for myself is just from a density standpoint, from a layout standpoint. I kind of want to get the feel of, are we going for max units, or are we going for more design and less units? I kind of want to get on the same page with everybody about what we're trying to do with this kind of product type. We can meet all 3. My preference leans towards the 40 layout. I believe that that's got a good breakup. good enough pedestrian, open space walking, and still decent thoroughfare. But I'm definitely interested to hear the opinions of everybody on this committee. I'm available for questions.
Any questions for Mr. Salama?
Could you address the design decision or the reasoning behind having that front row of, or the row of townhouses that are along Garden Road while you have the back
Yeah.
just towards
So
the street as opposed to the front?
yeah. So we feel from a design standpoint that having a connected road where the first opportunity for people to run out of their front door is in an area where only the people in that front door living area in the most instance would be 22 units. In the preferred instance would be 20 units. Having kids run out there would be a lot safer than running out to Garden Road. There's also the effect of the setback. So when you do the setback, in order to get the density that we're getting at, if you put the units all the way up against the face of Garden Road, now you need to put a drive aisle right in the face of Garden Road, which would reduce the amount of landscaping between Garden Road and the actual structure significantly. You can imagine that your drive aisle being at 20 feet wide along the front would put you within, probably a good 20 feet of Garden Road with your drive aisle. So in this instance, with the backyards facing and the heavy tree and shrubbery that we have there, which block a significant amount of the visual impact from Garden Road, you create the biggest buffer possible to kind of keep this group of units more protected from that road.
Is there going to be any like guidelines for tenants to on that front road that faces Garden Road to, what they can put on their decks and what they can have in their backyard, because that's going to be kind of the window onto Garden Road. And then how dense is that green belt, that setback of 45 feet? I mean, how is that going to get planted?
Yeah, so if we kept it this way, where we were able to have our backyards essentially facing Garden Road, a lot of our tree mitigation would go in that area. We're going to have a significant amount of tree mitigation that needs to happen on this site, and that's one of our best spots for it. It's a place where we don't really want open space as far as natural, for kids playing. We want to bring that a little to the right of the project or the southern ends of the project, more to the middle corridors, and keep that traffic that kind of goes up and over that hill. It's a little bit blind, and we just don't want anybody out there playing around.
Absolutely. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
So we'd like, do we open this for public comments? We're not passing anything. We're just talking about it, right?
It's still required to be open.
Okay, so let's go ahead and open this item number 3, I think it was, for 26 Garden Road, 2600 Garden Road up for public comments. And you can go ahead and do your spiel if you want.
To join the Zoom meeting from a computer or phone, use the link or phone numbers on the agenda posted at isearchmonterey.org. To join by telephone, dial 833-568-8864, then enter the webinar ID. Today's webinar ID is 161-914-9563. To provide public comment via Zoom, please use the raise your hand function at the bottom of your screen. To provide comments by phone, dial *9 to raise your hand, then *6 to unmute when called upon. Public commenters will be announced using their last 3 phone number digits or the name they've typed into Zoom. There are currently no attendees online.
Thank you, Erica. So I just have to say, this is a really nice surprise. I've this first time I've been on this committee, I've ever seen somebody come in to say, here's 3 ideas we have, help us decide which is the best. So thank you for doing that. And I'm really excited that you're moving in a different direction than the last time this came before the committee. So I'll just open it up for discussion. I'll just go over off the bat. My first inclination is number 3 is basically, if I had to live there and it looks a very sweet place to live, I would probably be happiest in the 36 units because there's more open space and there's less density. But we have a housing crisis, or at least an affordable housing crisis on the peninsula. So that's my 2 cents.
I also prefer either option B with 40 or option C with 36. 44 just seems a little too dense and a little too row-like for that area particularly. And after hearing explanation for the backyards on that first row being towards Garden Road, I would just like a lot of consideration put into the type of fencing, whether there's going to be any kind of requirements, like I think it was Patrick mentioned regarding what the homeowners can do on that backyard area, and a lot more landscaping. But my preference is definitely either the 40 or 36 unit options.
Yeah, I guess I'll weigh in. Everyone knows I was pretty harsh on the original scheme, and some of the things I really didn't like about the original scheme is we're piling a lot of people on these lots, and in that scheme we had a whole series of double loaded corridors where you wouldn't be interacting at all with people in your community. You know what I mean? There's no front stoops or anything like that. You'd just be sort of funneled from the parking lots into these double loaded corridors into your apartment. And there was a real lack of usable open space in that scheme. And this whole row house concept is just, it's a completely different approach, and it's such a better approach. I agree with everyone. I know Brad probably wants the extra units in there, but I almost feel like the units in the 36 unit scheme would be more valuable given the amount of open space and the amenities that they would have. That they would, I assume these are going to be rental units, but the rents would be possibly a bit more of a premium rental unit than the other schemes where they're sort of piled in. So like Patrick, I appreciate we've got a housing scarcity in the area. I wouldn't even be surprised if you really sharpened the pencil on this and maybe worked with the city on that setback, or maybe even the rear setback, if you couldn't get another 2 or 3 units into this scheme and preserve the sort of that content, that open space. But by and large, I just think these are a great improvement. And I really, as the person that sort of harped on the lack of human amenities in all of these projects, the lack of open space, if you're a family, where do you have your kid's birthday party, things like that. And you look at this scheme and you can see people actually living there. And it's not just numbers. And so I'm really glad this one came back to us. And again, I would vote for Unit C if it's financially tenable. Not Unit C, option C.
Option C. I'll just agree with basically all the comments. I especially appreciate the planning department's list of other considerations. Those all seem really important and valid to consider. There is a lot of topography here, and so I'll be curious to see how that's kind of worked through. Also with that parking, which I'll just say I'm not a fan of parking minimums, especially in situations like this where we're a single car household, et cetera, and this is adjacent, it looks like, to a bus stop, which I believe is on Garden Road there. There's a bike path. There's a number of ways to make this work without making that many parking spaces on every side, which is of course going to reduce your planting buffers, all of these different things, and largely be empty, except for occasional party nights or something like that. Now, I was actually leaning towards trying to find a reason for B to work, partially just because I think it is nice to increase that population density. But I was appreciating, at first I was trying to remove in my mind the cut through that goes all the way through. But the fact that the developer is saying that they're trying to get that other property and connect to it is changing my mind a little bit there. But it really depends on that. Like you could add a unit back in there and not have this pedestrian move go all the way through. I was in favor of keeping it because I believe it probably drops right off at that bus stop on the west or Garden Road side. But again, if maybe instead that gives you back a couple units, maybe even you get 3, as Justin is saying, if you sharpen the pencil, then you have that open space. And I'd say you just move those barbecues into that, just make it a more unified central community area for these residents and keep the roadways open. But otherwise, again, completely agree. Really nice changes, more favorable to people living here and using it, more porches and patios and community eyes on the street and community gathering spaces is much appreciated. Otherwise, not too many other comments. I do hope there's a way to reduce some of those parking spaces though.
Yeah, I think I agree with Priam. I like all the options, particularly B, but I think having a better idea of how that other property is going to tie into it is going to really drive, I think, how I would prioritize any of the 3 options that you showed us. Having the B model still provided more of that open space. And I think Justin was right in that maybe that's going to make it more appealing to the people who are going to be living there. But having that full tie-in with the other property would offer a lot of benefits. And if your efforts go forward where you can acquire that, then I think that offers you a whole bunch more opportunities to further refine the plan that you presented us. And I think almost any of the options look much better than what we were looking at previously.
One more question, Fernanda, does each unit have curbside garbage pickup and recycling, or is there a dumpster?
It's not clear at this point.
Okay.
So yeah, that would have to be worked out.
So there may be a dumpster enclosure or a few of them. Okay, got it. And then same with, I would imagine mailboxes, there'd be a central mailbox drive-through thing or something like that.
Yeah, that's not shown here, but I mean, it would have to be worked out with an actual architectural review permit submittal.
Well, thank you guys. I'm not closing down. I'm just going to comment that I would, absolutely probably, prefer option C. But, I could see B working for sure. But, option A for me, it's too dense and it's too, row housey. And then you've got the roads going all the way down and, possible drag racing and just kids. And so I think breaking up the streets in the middle like that is a good idea to kind of slow things down. So thank you for that. Any other comments? We don't vote, right? Yeah, so thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Thank you. All right. Hope to see you soon. Okay. All right. So are there any committee comments on things that are going on in our lives or our businesses? Any staff updates, reports?
Right. So last time, especially Justin Pauly wanted to get an update on 2000 Garden Road and what's happening there. So I did my research and I looked through our building permit database. So the applicant actually applied for a demolition permit back in 2020 to demolish the entire building there. Then and that demolition permit was approved by planning staff because it doesn't require a hearing or any discretionary approval. It's just a ministerial approval for demolition. Then the applicant applied for an architectural review permit for converting the building into residential units. So not sure why, but maybe they thought they were gonna demolish it. Then they decided, well, what if we convert it? And then that's the conversion application is what you reviewed in January of 2022, and you approved preliminary and final architectural review of the conversion of that building into residential units. And you placed a condition on that approval that they have to come back to you with a landscape plan. They obviously did not, decided to not go with that approach. And they picked up their demolition permit again, and it was issued in October of 2022. So that's why then they demolished the building in late 2022. It's their choice.
Right.
They didn't violate any codes or anything. And now they're looking at doing something completely different at that site.
Obviously. So we don't know what changed their mind. It could have been when they got into the project, they said, there's weight, this is not going to be cost effective because this building's falling apart or whatever. We don't know.
I don't know. It could have been the water issue too. Maybe they thought that they could use some sort of gray water system, and now that they're not able to,
So was
it
there
doesn't make
recently
sense.
a change in that, not allowing that type of system to, is that a city thing or is that a county thing?
It was the Monterey Peninsula Water
Water
Management
District, okay.
District. They came up with a rule that those systems are no longer allowed.
Interesting. Okay. Does that answer your questions, Justin?
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of a convoluted and tortured process.
Mhm.
Costly too.
Sort of bizarre. Yeah, it's the second project there that's going to go through the full design process. The one we just looked at, that's getting a complete redesign, and then that other one's getting a complete redesign. It's just, I don't know. I don't know if it's the district, the water district isn't communicating clearly with people. I know that's been a situation for us in my firm. But boy, it's just, they should get their ducks in a row.
Yeah.
It could also be that you're right and that these buildings just aren't viable. Not just from the perspective that the building itself isn't sound, but it's just not viable to make it into housing. I think
I totally agree with you. Yeah.
I think the presentation we just saw is certainly a much better approach to take for, I think, most of what's in Garden Road. If they can afford it and they can demo the building and then start from scratch with something like townhomes, it's going to be much more of a community feel than, just some converted office building.
Yeah, I mean, I walked into that to the one we approved last week. Actually, when I did the site visit, I actually walked into the building and you jumped up and down on the floors. They were literally springing. I mean, there's no way. There's no way that you're going to add that much of a load onto that thing and save it. So it's just sort of a strange circumstance.
The project that you approved at 2300 Garden Road is moving forward with a building permit. The building permit, they've applied for it, and I believe that it's going to be issued soon. If not, it's already been issued. So you're going to start seeing construction there.
Did I hear the previous owner, the previous applicant correctly, Mr. Slama, say that he's actually looking at buying that project?
That's
Or
what
is that
I didn't hear that. No.
yeah, well, he said he's considering buying 2560 Garden Road,
that's that project, right?
the one behind 2600 Garden Road.
Okay.
The one we just approved.
Yeah.
Last time.
So-
Okay.
Yeah, so 2560 you approved
2 weeks ago.
on January 18th,
Right.
and now he's gonna try to buy it and
Change everything.
probably change it again. Yeah.
Well, maybe he's going to have like the same pattern, which would be great.
Yeah.
That'd be fantastic. Okay, great. Any other staff report comments?
I just had a follow-up question on the parking requirements. Because I thought I'd seen this and I just kind of tried to look it up, and I do see that, I mean, a bill was passed California-wide, AB 2097, prohibiting minimum parking requirements if adjacent to transit. And so I'm just curious, this project looks like it would fit that if it's next to a bus stop. I'm just curious if there's any comments from planning on that subject.
Right. I have to look at that more closely, but that bus stop on Garden Road is not considered like a high quality transit corridor. So because it only, I think the bus only stops there 3 times a day, I think, I'm pretty sure. And so because we tried looking at that with the previous project at 2600 Garden Road and tried to have a more of an exemption for the parking. But we couldn't because it wasn't a high quality transit corridor. It didn't qualify. However, they can apply for a density bonus application, which it has some incentives in it. Because they would be required to provide 20% affordability, they can in exchange, get an incentive to reduce the amount of parking that they need to provide. And they could also get an incentive to reduce the front yard setback. So there's things that they can do, and I will communicate that to them.
Great, thank you. Yeah, maybe get closer to that 40 number and still have that space in the middle and all that. That'd be great.
Mhm.
All right, thank you.
Okay, if there's nothing further, then I'd like to adjourn today's meeting. Thank you, everybody.
Great job, Patrick.
Thank you, Justin.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.